The sky turns black and eyes turn gold. I turns to mist. The truth is told between the lines of crooked teeth. Ruptured chance falls obsolete. Hey, Composing Gloves here, and today we're going to talk about the measure. So, we've talked about tempo now, and we've talked about the staff. Now, once we have this, we came up with a new sort of thing. We said, all right, well, we're going to split it up. We're going to create this thing. We're going to use a tempo, use a staff. Now, what if we have how do we separate this up further? How do we notate this now? So they said, hey, we're going to use these things called bar lines. So these lines right here are called bar lines. They represent a segment, and the space in between two bar lines, we'll call that a measure. And they said, wow, that's a great idea. Now they said, hey, you know what? Let's make it so that in between these two bar lines, there are so many beats, and our beat is just defined by our tempo. So we're going to talk about beats later. But anyways, the idea is we have a measure which is formed by two bar lines and represents a set length of beats, a set number of beats. And our tempo, our speed of our song, our track, our piece, our tune, whatever you want to call it, that tempo will set how long each measure lasts. And then we'll divide up that length of time by beats. And so we choose to use the beats because it automatically defines whatever it is. It's a ratio system. It's not an absolute system. If it was an absolute system, we'd have all sorts of problems. But because it's a ratio system, we could say whatever that measure represents, cut that in half, that's a half note. The whole measure, that's a whole note. Whatever a quarter of that measure represents, that's a quarter note. And so now we have this really flexible, rather intuitive system. So that's what a measure is. So you'll see these things called measures, and we're going to talk about the notes and all the different things about the notes. But something you need to be aware of as we put measures together is musicians will refer to these as bars. So they'll toss them around. They'll say like, hey, that's 3 bars right there, or that's 4 bars. Well, if I included those, that's 4 bars. Here's another 3, add 3 bars to that. So 7 bars or 1 bar. They won't say measures because like you're not cool if you say measures. So that's that in a nutshell. That's what measures are all about. These are pretty simple concepts right now. So nothing too crazy yet. Just need to understand what measures are. They're just a way to break it up. As you can see, once you understand the staff and you understand tempo, it's pretty easy to jump to this. And now notes are much more intuitive. They're just so much more intuitive to understand why we have these note things and why they are set up the way they are, sort of why they exist the way they do. One other thing I want to mention real quick is I have one staff, but you can have multiple staffs, and they can be called staffs. They can be or staves. So sometimes you see them as like, oh, these are the staves. And there's different kinds of staffs. There's this thing called the grand staff. There's all this cool mumbo jumbo. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day. We have here in Harmor. Now get this, if you right click it, it takes you straight to the shape for EQ. That's so strange because in other places you right click, you get a menu, but not on the EQ because our EQ is special. So I'm assuming you have some basic understanding of an equalizer. Like, you know that it boosts and cuts your frequency spectrum and a basic knowledge of frequency spectrum and that kind of thing. But other than that,